The studies have shown that when you do a mobile transaction, you have to know how to initiate the transaction, which means you have to get typically a USSD code, or if you have a smartphone, an app to log on, to look at a menu, to pick a menu item, then to execute a transaction to say, I want to purchase product XYZ for so much, or move money XYZ from myself to somebody else, and so on. And then there's a cost associated with that, usually a transaction cost. One of the things that has been observed is that women do not necessarily have as much understanding of what of the transaction they're entering into and the implications of that in terms of cost. So the ability to read what the SMS is saying to them about that transaction, the ability to interpret what it is saying, and therefore the ability to then make a choice. And see, when you have incomplete information, you typically make imperfect choices. So there is a lot of work that can be done still to drive women's financial literacy. So that's an area or an opportunity for growth. The good news is that the studies have shown that for very many women today, their first loan is a mobile loan. And this is wonderful news, that many women, the first loan they take is a digital loan on a digital app. There's very many reasons for this. One is the reality that a lot of women, they have to sit in their retail business. Remember, we said they're in retail. If they leave their business for several hours, that equals to zero sales, equals to not just zero sales, but probably negative sales, lost sales that went to somebody else. Digital platforms make it possible for these women to not pay that very heavy opportunity cost in the name of seeking financial access. That's a key one. The second one is that the sad reality is that it still remains true that many women are not propertied. They do not have the ability to bring any kind of significant collateral to a lending transaction. And the typical collateral on lending transactions would be land or buildings, or I'll call it movable assets, a motor vehicle or a portion mill or something like that. Women are rarely owners of the kinds of assets that are used to secure loans. And because of that, women have been disadvantaged in their ability to secure loans. The good news about mobile lending or digital platforms is that they have largely eliminated that requirement for lower value loans. And so women are better able to obtain digital loans based on their transaction record, based on their movement pattern, based on all kinds of data built around artificial intelligence. So the big news is that digital platforms have actually expanded the space for women, and that is a wonderful thing. What we have found is that the key thing is equipping and resourcing these community leaders and influencers, expanding the horizons of their thinking, the horizons of their possibilities to drive better outcomes for themselves and the other women in the market, whether these leaders are male or female. So we have found that it's very important in any intervention to be very clear who these leaders and influencers are, to drive engagement with them. And typically the unfortunate thing is when actors like ourselves and yourselves go into a market, we tend to go in with an agenda. We have very specific outcomes that we're seeking within a very finite time frame and a very narrowly defined set of parameters. And frequently, we are therefore trying to bend these leaders and influencers to support our agenda. And harder thing to do then is to say, yes, we have a mandate, we have an agenda to drive, but the first task in the agenda is going to be not about convincing these influencers and community leaders to support our agenda, but expanding the horizons of their thinking, the horizons of their possibilities. We find that carries more power, more heft, more influence in shaping long-term outcomes than saying, could you please sign off on this here agenda? I've got targets and measures that I need to achieve. So the most important thing is to start saying, what are the interventions, the activities, the information, the knowledge, the exercises that will challenge their paradigms and open their thinking about why they are where they are, about what matters to them, and about what they're trying to achieve. If we use that as a foundation, it then becomes a lot easier to then say, now that we've opened up your possibility set, here's a set of possibilities that will drive a particular set of outcomes in a given time. As we've engaged with actors, we found the biggest driver of change has been expanding what I will call their technical capacity. The technical capacity to better optimize their business, whatever the business may be, whether it's in processing, whether it's in sales, whether it's in production, whether it's in transportation and logistics. Because the truth is, most of these enterprises are run suboptimally. Because they are run suboptimally, one could almost say that subpar outcomes are guaranteed or locked in. And so what we found is that the first key is not even financial literacy. It's not even business acumen. It's not even I don't know but self-help thinking. It's building out their technical capacity. Because the thing about building out their technical capacity is that within one or two, I want to say, production cycles or market cycles, they start to experience outcomes that are materially superior to what they have been experiencing for years or decades. And it is such a beautiful thing to see the light, the gleam, the fire come back in their eye, a sense of hope, a sense of optimism, a sense that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a direction out of the sense of entrapment and limitation that they have largely walked in. So the success stories largely relate to saying, whatever you're doing, whichever part of the value chain you're in, let's strengthen your technical capacity to drive productivity. That sets off a glimmer. It becomes a trigger for driving everything else, for driving how to become a better business person, for driving how to scale, for driving how to seek loans, or how to look for new markets, or how to diversify. So that in itself, like I said, Lattice has done a lot of work, probably more work than almost any implementer in East Africa in the aquaculture sector. So a lot of our success stories have been across the gamut of the aquaculture value chain, from inputs to production, to aggregation, to processing, to distribution, and to end markets. But the most satisfying stories have come out of seeing productivity go up. So if it's fish production, it's the fish per acre or per pond, or the feed conversion ratio. If it's the market women that you talk about, the metrics could vary. It could be the sales per day, it could be the price per fish or the profit per fish. But coming out of saying, how do we optimize this, and seeing that open their eyes to the idea that there could be more, and not by moving to a different country or a different business, but by optimizing this. That has been very, very satisfying, and it has energized our desire to continue using technical expertise as a core anchor for our engagement with market women.